Um, so that's I'm going to talk about a bit about relationships, and as you can see, it's very motivated by a personal desire not to lose my mind. So starting off, quick question. We always signify romantic love with a red heart. Does anyone know why we do that? Because if you think about it, all the hormones and stuff goes on in your head, in your brain, right? So why do we use a heart? Any ideas? Just shoot some answers.
Maybe because your blood pressure goes high and you're pumping more blood all over your body.
Yeah, pretty close, pretty close.
Okay.
So the that is very true actually. Unfortunately, it doesn't it hasn't come to that yet.
Any emotion affects our heart. So whatever emotion it is, that it shows the effect on our heart. That
That's very true. So that's quite close to the answer. So the idea is that so when you're in love, so when you're in that infatuation phase, like people notice that their heart rate starts going really high. So that's where we get the heart emoji because like, you can almost feel it viscerally in your heart. So so as you get into relationships, then you start to get into a little bit of this kind of conflict between your heart and your head, and you're not sure what to do. So because oftentimes they're not really aligned. And then once you go through enough experiences, you develop a cynical view that looks more like this. Uh, so it says, follow your brain, your heart is an idiot. So this kind of idea is that, and the reason why we come across this difference is because as humans, we've kind of evolved biologically and psychologically to mate. And the drive to mate and the drive to form long term relationships are very different. So, what your heart is telling you need not necessarily be the best for what is a long term relationship. And so, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So, first, you have what I like to call system one thinking. This comes from Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize in economics for this idea that there are two systems in your that you can visualize your mind. So you're on the one side you have the side that's very intuitive. So it's kind of like when you brush up and when you wake up and brush your teeth, right? You don't even think about it. You can't even remember that you actually brushed your teeth, but it was so automatic. So you have that on the one side, like tying your shoelace, things that are like that you don't even need to use energy to actually do. And then on the other hand, you have system two thinking, which is very intentional, and it's kind of like when you're writing a maths exam, right? You have to actually expend energy and be very, actually be very intentional and direct about doing it. So that's not automatic at all. So when it comes to relationships, we have um, the hard part of it comes almost naturally to us. We don't even have to think about it. We don't. No one needs to tell us who we like or who we are attracted to, or what kind of relationship we want to pursue. And you can see that we have like a set of symbols, right, or a set of reasons why that happens. Because so we are so these kind of things, whether it's attractiveness, social pressure, or loneliness, are very intuitive, kind of primal kind of motivators for us. And if you think about them, you realize that loneliness, lust, and the and culture or social pressure are really strong when it comes to our primal instincts. So we have this on the one side, and on the other side we have things that we've kind of heard about or that our rational mind says is good for relationships, and those can be something like empathy, emotional stability, and intelligence. Right. So we have these two sides, and the problem is that when you think like I said, there's this difference between what is good for you when you're thinking about, let's say, a 50-year partnership, and one that is good for you when you're sitting across from someone and you're feeling attracted to them or you like them, right? So Logan Urey talks about this idea called present bias, which is that when you're sitting in front of someone and you're feeling emotions, you're so biased towards giving that importance. But what you should be really thinking about is the 20, 30, 40 years of relationship that you're going to get into and what traits are important for that to be successful, right? So that actually requires some more intentional, brain side to get in and actually give you the input that you need. So I developed this kind of, developed is a strong word, but I came up with a little bit of a process that I have to kind of figure out, okay, how can I make this a part of my kind of dating style? Like what can you do? And the idea is that you want to kind of get out of that system one thinking and kind of get into a process that kind of really helps you engage the factors that are really important for a long-term relationship. So, so if you think about the relationships traits that are important to you, firstly, you have to start off by being as objective as possible. Because if you really like someone, then they're going to seem the most perfect person to you, and you're going to kind of use the halo effect. If you guys don't know what halo effect is, it's like when you find one trait that you like about a person, you extrapolate that into them being good in all the other traits. So just because someone is attractive doesn't mean they're also honest, right? That's just an assumption you're making. So relationship traits. So first you start off with what kind of partner in relationship do I really want? So this is when you think about the long term and you think about what do I, what does it look like? What do I really need in my life, right? You could start off with saying someone who has my back, someone who will understand and care for me, right? Pretty basic stuff. Then you kind of take that desire of what you want, and then you make that into a trait. So caring and empathetic, and you assign an importance to it, which could be, say, whatever, high, medium, low. As so, it's very personalized. It's what you think is important for your relationship, and um, you have to then make this kind of very uh, as objective as possible judgment about whether the person you're dating actually has this trait or not. And for that, you need, and like I said, when your heart is not something to be trifled with. It's really strong, right? So you have to actually come up with things that are very objective and that you can actually pinpoint. As if you were almost recommending a person to someone, to your friend. Like, let's say your friend was asking you for advice. How would you judge this person, right? So it could be, you can start off with questions that really require you to come up with solid answers. So it can't just be a feeling. So it can be something like, when I had a difficult time, did they support me? What have they actually done? So giving a more of a bias towards actions than words to what people have done. So you can come up with a list of traits like this, and then this will help you kind of objectively try to assess whether the people you're dating are actually good for you in the long term. And you might find that this is something that might be going against what you're feeling at the moment. It might go with what you're feeling at the moment, but this will just help you. Just a tool to help you see if you're making the best decision for the long term, right? Um, how many Naruto fans here? I expected Archana. You know Naruto, the anime? No? Heard of it? Okay. I'm going to give you a little bit of. Okay. Volume is a bit.
to each other. Those like you who are born with talent do not have to work at it. Those like me who want to have to dream every day of our lives. I do not know if I can blame you. Sometimes it seems like the whole thing is pointless. Like I'm a loser and I will always be a loser. I do not know what to do. You're right. All the effort is useless if you don't believe in yourself. The rejuvenated wheat village's massive devil. Wrongly. That boy has something important to prove. And he's determined to prove it, even if it comes as a fight. Up there, to that bushy red ribbon was true genius.
Okay. So, how are you guys feeling from watching that? Little confused? Yeah. So, just to give you a bit of background, Naruto is this kind of anime where people have a sort of energy in their body, which they can then convert into kind of attacks or so it's very hard to describe it, but it's so the idea is that everyone has this kind of energy that they can use to kind of engage in fights and martial arts and things like that. So there's this one character called Rock Lee, and he is one who doesn't have this ability. So he can't use his energy to actually fight his opponents. So which makes him somewhat unsuitable to be a ninja, right? But as you can see, like through the video, he just through his grit and determination, he's able to master just the physical ability of his body to challenge anyone who has the talent to actually use their energy, right? So the reason that I bring this up is because sorry.
So that's the no talent overachiever I've heard so much about. Rock Lee.
Because we've all dealt with rejection. So I don't need to talk about rejection because I think we all have this very personal kind of idea of what it is. I think almost most of us have gone through it at some point in our lives or not. And I think it's so I don't also need to tell you that it's a really hard time for you as a person to deal with it, especially if you're someone who tends to be a little bit hard on yourself. So I kind of try to figure out what are some things that I can do to better get over it, better deal with my emotions, and just get back to being normal as soon as possible. So the first thing is, I think you need to adopt some beliefs. I think you need to adopt the belief that you actually had very strong emotions for them. And the fact that you're not going to be together. So I think it's very important that you really internalize this, because only then, once you accept your feelings, can you actually move on. Because if you keep fighting it, you're going to see that it keeps coming back. So the best way to is actually accept the reality of the situation, accept what has happened, and then also realize that you can't keep pining over this person who has rejected you. Next, it's kind of like your thoughts have been invaded, because it feels like you have a lot of uncontrolled thoughts in your mind that you can't really that you feel like you can't control. So thoughts are really the most basic level of our thinking and of how we go about our lives. So you kind of have to figure it out at that level. So I feel like you need to incorporate some of these thought patterns into your life that really help set things straight and kind of help you face the reality of the situation. So it could be the fact that, and the thing is, all of these are true, so you have to believe them. And the more you say it to yourself, the more that you can actually deal with your emotions. So first, you need to figure out that someone who doesn't choose you is fundamentally incompatible. You can't be in a relationship with someone who doesn't choose you, right? There is nothing you can do to change the outcome. If you're a bit insecure, you'll always think, if I just been a little bit more confident or a bit more good looking or a bit more insert your personal insecurity, then you will you kind of get into that, but that's not really true. There's nothing you can do to change the outcome, and of course, you don't want to be with someone who doesn't love you, right, at the end of the day. So those are the thought patterns, and I have this like little thing that I read somewhere. It's called the love jar, or like the cookie jar, which is basically that it's kind of like, cookie, like just how it's kind of like a guilty pleasure sometimes. You fill this kind of love jar with stuff that when people have shown love to you, or when people have shown kind of gone against your insecurity. So let's say that you don't believe you're good looking, but your friend met you one day and she said, "Oh, you're looking really great today." So you put that little compliment in your love jar, and the next time you feel completely shit and you want to break your thought patterns, you go back to your love jar and you read what you've actually put in there, because that is something real that actually happened that helps you break your negative thought patterns and gets you back into feeling a little bit more positive. So these are just some that I have here. It's very personal to you, the things that have happened in your life that you put in your love jar so that you can read it again. And I don't know, but it can also be the fire that really drives you, because I find that there's nothing that makes you as motivated and as determined as rejection. I think, in a sense, I don't know if this is completely healthy or unhealthy, but I think it's almost driven by this desire that you want to prove them wrong. You want to prove that they made a mistake, and you want to get better. And get better not in a sense of revenge, but in a sense that you want to get better at whoever it is you are. Whether you need to spend more time with your hobbies, or whether you need to get fit and get into the gym, or you need to eat healthier. Whatever it is that makes you a better you, use the rejection as the driving force for you to actually start focusing more on yourself, right? And think about Rock Lee. He's got nothing, and he still comes to fight every day. He keeps getting better and better and better. And we need to have that kind of perseverance and determination, even with our own personal lives, to make our lives better, right? So yeah, that's about it. This is just some of the material that I recommend. The first is actually my blog that I ended up writing after a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's around 11,000 words long, so take your time with it. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you so much.